Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Minute webinar on protecting your properties, saving time, and optimizing operations. My name is Buster. I'm the head of sales at Minut, and today we're going to talk about how Minut can work for you as property managers. Now, this is relevant regardless if you're a really small property manager with 1 or 2 properties or a large property management company. So I'm super excited to see so many people joining in here. We'll go through the agenda, see if I can flip the slide here in just a minute. But first, I'd like to, good morning, Robert. Nice to see comments dropping in as well. So what I would love to ask you guys before we start is what brings you here today? I'm going to see if I can share a poll here in the chat, and you should be able to respond to that. So we'll see. We have some different options. We have understanding how to use the device and the service better, noise complaints, city mandates or ordinances, thinking about a noise monitoring solution, or any other reasons that brings you here today. Someone wrote that there was some issues with sound, but I think I am broadcasting. So yeah, okay. Yeah, definitely you can hear me. So Carolina, if you don't hear me, perfect. Thanks guys. Thanks, Patty. Yeah, if you can't hear me, then try the settings on your computer. Maybe resetting the audio would work. Okay, so let's see, polls. Understanding how to use the device better and thinking about buying a noise monitoring solution. So really good reasons for being here. And if you wrote other and the reason wasn't listed here, please let us know in the chat so we can address that directly. Okay, let's dive into the presentation. The agenda for today. We are going to talk about the core features of Minut. We're going to touch upon integrations, and we're going to talk about what's coming up in the future as well. And we are also going to have a look at the web app. So I'm going to screen share and go into the details there. And then at the end, we'll have a Q&A. And hopefully we'll have a lot of questions, and I will try to answer them as good as I can. So let's dive right into it. Let's see, other interest to find out more. Yeah, so to learn more about the service, and that's what we're here to do. So hopefully you'll all get your questions answered. The 4 areas that we're focusing on, like most of you probably know us very well as a noise monitoring sensor, the device. And that's completely correct. That's one of the core things we do. At the top here, you have noise and occupancy monitoring. And we'll talk a little bit more about these features further along in the presentation. Security and access control is the second area where we're strongly developing and developing really quickly. We have some integrations coming up with smart locks and access control. The third area is sort of compliance with the city ordinances. And this is something we see in the US, also in the EU as well, where we're having more and more responsibility on our shoulders as property managers to make sure that we're in line with ordinances and regulations from the cities. And I think if we do that in a good way, we can beat them to putting further restrictions on areas that already are heavily restricted. So sort of being like the responsible host there. And then guest comfort. We do more than noise, as if you have tried the product, you might know this already, but we do temperature and humidity and give you other insight into what's going on in your properties. I'll start by saying, which I always do, and point out that Minut is 100% privacy safe. It's a system that doesn't use cameras. We do not record anything at all, and no raw data is ever transferred from the device itself. And this is quite impressive if you think about it, because what normally happens is that a device listens to a conversation and then it sends it to a server somewhere, and then you analyze what's going on, and then you tell then you tell what's up. But what we do is we do all of that on the device itself, and we only send a fingerprint or sort of the instructions, not the audio itself. And this is important because our guests are at the center of everything we do, and we don't want to be putting technology in homes that people aren't comfortable with. Best in class software. So if you've used a Minut system, you know that there's two ways to do it. The three components is the sensor that I'm holding here. This is what goes in the property. And then the way you interact with it is through the mobile app and through the web dashboard. And those two are used in synchronous. I mean, you use the mobile app for the sort of on-field everyday monitoring. Notifications go through there really easily, alerts, and to be able to see at a to have all of the information at your fingertips. And then the web app we've built and are continuing to develop for not only larger property managers, but if you want to do bulk edits, if you want to set things up in a way that is a bit cumbersome to do on the phone, then that's what that is for. I mentioned a lot of different features, and this is sort of where we set ourselves apart from maybe the rest of the market in terms of monitoring, because we do a lot of things in one single device, which means that if you install Minut, you're not only getting noise monitoring, you're also getting motion, temperature, and humidity, and the occupancy, which is the latest feature that we've released. And we're also we have a strong focus on being global. So I think here today we have people from, looking at the list here, we have people from the US, we have people from the EU. I think as you'll see in the end, we'll have about 120 countries that we have customers in. So it's a truly global solution, and we have distribution centers all over the world to be able to support your growth and our customers in those countries. One question we get a lot is the battery powered aspect of Minut. And this is a really strong reason, a really big reason why a lot of people go with Minut, because it's battery powered. It lasts up to a year, which means that you only have to recharge it for a few hours every 10 or 12 months. And that's the main reason for that, is that so you can install it wherever you want. It can sit in the ceiling, it can sit on a wall, it can sit behind a counter, wherever you feel that you need to have this device so that it is in a good location in your home, and so people don't tamper with it. That's where you can put it. And it's really easy to install. It has a little metal plate on the back, and that little metal plate has an adhesive. You stick it up on the ceiling, and then it attaches to that. And Keith had a question. I'll bring some questions up as they come in, and then we'll also have a Q&A at the end. So the question here was Keith asked, like, if you live far away and you don't want to use the battery, and that's an excellent question. If you don't want to use the battery, you can run it plugged in as well, which these images are showing. So on the right hand side there, in every box there's a cable. It's a USB-C, and you connect it. And in those cases, the sensor will run in power, like powered into the mains, but it will also have battery in case there is something wrong, or in case someone tampers with it. It will still have the battery, and it will act as a backup. And there's another good point brought up here, that the battery life may not last a year if the Wi-Fi is too far away from the sensor. And all of these things matter. Like Wi-Fi, as you know, is something that, you sometimes have good connection, sometimes you don't. I'll show you in the web app, we have a little indicator for how strong the Wi-Fi connection is. And in some cases, you might have to think about that when you install your Minut, that you want to put it close to a router. Now, if it's far away from the router, it's going to struggle to connect, and that might affect battery life. Battery life is also affected by other things like temperature and activity, like how many times does it have to send notifications, and every time it does, it's going to affect the battery life. But in general, we see devices go up to a year, and we're pretty confident that it will last for a long time, so that you don't have to go charging all the time. But if that is a concern, that you can absolutely run it wired in. Mounting plates, yes, you can order more of those. Contact hello@minut.com. That was another question. That's a magnetic plate on the back. So fully charge the device when you get it, download the app and connect it to the Wi-Fi, and then mount it to the ceiling, and you're good to go. The device will tell you when the battery is low, and I will show you what that looks like in the web app as well. So let's look at some core features. So that was sort of around the hardware, and we really built Minut to be easy to install. Like we thought anyone without any technical knowledge or expertise should be able to do this. And we've tested it with a lot of people, and my parents actually installed it themselves. It went great, and I'm really proud of them. But they had no issues doing it. It's all plug and play, and you follow the instructions in the app. Let's talk about features. So core feature, and this is in a category, sorry, adverse events. This is the noise monitoring. This is for when something happens that we don't normally see, or that we don't want to happen. I mean, we want to avoid these. We want to prevent parties in the first place. And by notifying you immediately when there's a noise event, we can avoid damages and avoid complaints. I'll talk a little bit more about how you set these thresholds and how the actual noise monitoring works. But this is one of the core features, and what I think is one of the greatest things about Minut, that it uses this decibel level to show you what's going on. And it's we'll talk about intervals. We'll talk about how soon you will get a notification, because there's a duration that you set during which the device won't give you a notification. But when the noise has been going on for long enough, you will get a notification. And I have a slide on exactly how this works, and we'll look at it as well in a live demo. This is actually, if I walk you through like step by step what happens. So the first little spike that you see here on this graph, that's potentially a door slamming or someone making a short but very loud noise. We don't want to trigger for these, because you'll end up having a lot of false alerts or a lot of false triggers. And what you want to do is you want to catch the real problems, which is the longer when it's over a certain amount of time that the noise has been going on for. So if we look at what that looks like, after 10 minutes, in this case, in this example, it's after about 10 minutes, you will get the first alert. And this is a sequence of 3 steps. So in each sequence, you are able to set a few different reactions, or you can set a few different things that happen. The things are notifying your team or yourself, SMS to guests, which is a direct guest communication, an auto call to guests, and a flash and sound in the device itself. In the first step, I'll tell you more about these as well, how they work. But in the first step, you have I have set notifications to the team here, and I've set SMS to guests. So that's sort of the first thing I want to happen at this stage. I don't want to do anything else. I just want I want to know about it, and I want the guests to get an automated text message saying that it's a bit too loud, and asking them politely to turn the volume down. In the second stage, so this is like, if nothing has happened here, like we still have a loud noise event going on and nothing's happened. Well, then in the second stage, after 10 minutes, another 10 minutes, I want there to be an auto call to guests. And this is basically, we implemented this feature because we noticed that a lot of people don't see a text message, they might miss that. And this is a phone call with an automated voice reading out the message that you choose. And this is good because you really get their attention, and hopefully, when receiving this, they will quiet down. If that doesn't happen, then in the last step here, as an example, I've turned on all of the available features, all of the features available to me. And the last one here is flash and sound. And flash and sound is a physical reaction in the device itself. I don't know if you guys can see that, but the device has lights, and it can light up. And what this does, what this does is it alerts the guest in the property itself, and it also makes a little beeping noise. And this is really up to you how you want to use this feature. Some people say that, well, this is great because the guest will know that something's going on. Preferably you inform them about it and what it means prior to the stay. But some people say, well, I don't want to communicate with my guests that way. I rather call them myself and talk to them directly, and that's fine too. So the point of Minut is that we want to give you the tools to give your guests the best experience, and to be able to solve things like this in the way that you want to run your business. So these are the options available to you in this sequence. You can turn all of them off. You can have all of them on. It's completely customizable. We are also going to look at a little bit later how to set appropriate decibel levels. So we have some recommendations for that. What we found is that 95% of events are resolved within 15 minutes after the first text message. So on the previous slide here, after the first message is sent out, asking them politely to turn the music down or to be a little bit more quiet, that resolves the issue. And this is really good news for everyone, because that means that you don't have to take further action. You don't have to go to the property, or you don't have to send someone over, or you don't have to worry about it. So that's why we do this. And a lot of times the guests they don't know that they're making a lot of noise, and it gives them the benefit of the doubt, and it's a good experience for everyone. So that was noise monitoring, and we'll look at the live dashboard in a little bit to sort of see more about that. But then we have the security alarm. And I'll go through these quite there's not a lot of information here on the slides, but I'll go through them quite quickly. And if there's anything you want to dive deeper into at the end of the presentation, just feel free to post your questions. If I don't bring it up right now, I'll do it in the Q&A. The security alarm uses a motion sensor on the front of the device here to detect movement. And this is for vacant properties or in between guest stays. If there's any unauthorized movement, or when the property should be empty and is not empty, then you will get notified. Alarm recognition is another feature that's really helpful if you have other sensors or other alarms, like a smoke alarm or smoke detector or a CO2 alarm. And what it does is it hears these alarms and it notifies you. So instead of buying a ton of different smart home equipment where everything has its own app, this device, Minut, will just listen, and it will hear if an alarm is going off and then trigger an alert in your app or in your dashboard. Tamper detection is really important because we normally recommend people to place it in the ceiling, and the reason for that is that we have, number one, the motion detection gets the best coverage, and number two is that people don't tamper with it. It doesn't look like anything. It looks like it's like I don't know if you can see that, but it's like a smoke detector almost. It doesn't really draw any attention to it, and that's perfect because we don't want people to touch it. But if they do, you'll get a notification. If it's removed from its mounting plate, you'll get a notification. If it goes offline, you'll get a notification. And if someone turns it off, you'll also know about it. And then you can contact the guest and take appropriate action. This happens very seldom, but in case it does, that's how it works. Keith has a good question on how the alarm works, but I'm going to save that to the Q&A in a little bit. So just hang tight, and I'll answer you in a bit. The occupancy is our newest feature, and it detects Bluetooth devices. So it gives you an indication on whether there's a crowd gathering or not. Now, the crowd detect feature is new. It's a beta version, and we currently only detect iOS devices. So at Minut, we always try to be better. We always strive towards being as innovative as we can. And this feature is the first step into taking noise and occupancy to a new level. But as everything that's new, it's not fully fledged yet, and we're still working out some kinks. So more than anything, this is something to say we're working on. We know what's an issue in properties and for property managers, and we're working on ways to solve it. So what it's doing now, it's detecting iOS devices, and it's definitely, it doesn't give you an exact number of people, but it's going to give you a risk level. And how I use this personally, I see it as a whole. So I have this crowd detect feature that I use in combination with motion, with temperature, with noise, And all of those data points give me a good idea, but you can't rely directly on crowd detect to say like, oh, there's 12 people, exactly 12 people, or exactly 13 people. So that's not what this feature does. So I just want to set those expectations right. But it's really cool. We launched this without any, it was included in everyone who had a Minut in the plans that they were paying for. It was automatically included, and it was a firmware over-the-air firmware update, so you didn't have to reset the device or anything. And we hope to be able to bring it to improve it and to bring you even better occupancy detection in the future, of course. So we have a big engineering team in Sweden working on this as we speak. And then we have, I'll ask, Pamela asked a question here. She asked, does it count the number of devices? And it does count the number of devices, but people might have multiple. I have my phone, I have my laptop, I might have an iPad. So it's not, we're using that input and then having like an algorithm that calculates an average what we think a person has based on our data from all of our properties that we have live, and that's what we use to give you an information. So it does count the devices, but it doesn't count people. So that's really the difference there. Automated guest messaging is one of our core features here, and it's one of the ones that save our customers the most time, because this is where you can start. As soon as you can start automating your operations, that's where you really can make progress in your business and with your tech stack that you have installed in your property. So this is really good, and it uses a PMS integration, or if another API integration with your booking system, or somehow we get the guest data, and then we can send text messages to the guest. And speaking of that, I will go deeper into integrations in a little bit, because you need an integration with the PMS to be able to have this work. So temperature then, when we come into the guest experience realm, temperature is something that you can use to know if there's a window left open or the AC has been left on. Depends a little bit where you are. We have people here today in the webinar from all over the world. So if you're in a hot place, well, then you might want to know if the AC stops working. Or if you're in a cold place, you might want to know if the heat stops working. We're actually working on some really cool integrations with thermostats and companies that can control the climate control in your properties. But currently it's just it's a temperature reading that you're getting from Minut. So you can set thresholds for it, just like you do with sound. You set a high threshold and a minimum threshold, and if it goes over or below, you'll get a notification. Then we also have check-in and checkouts, and this is using the booking information. We also know with the motion detection if someone's in the property or not. So we can give you or your guests free check-in messages. We can talk about, we can send them the key box code. We can tell you when they arrive. We can tell you when they leave. A lot of our clients use this for if they stay beyond the time when they should have left. Or you use motion to sort of see when cleaning has been there, when maintenance has been there. And it just gives you a way to know, which you otherwise maybe wouldn't, when someone's in the property. And then finally, for your clients, when you grow or when you onboard new homeowners, and this is primarily if you're a larger property manager, but also if you're thinking about growth in the future, we provide some help for you, marketing materials, some blurbs that you can post on your website to sort of tell your client and homeowners that the properties that you manage are protected by Minut, which means that they know that there won't be any damages. They're much less likely to have parties in them, and this is a way for you to sort of grow your business and telling your existing and future homeowners that you're a responsible property manager, and we would love to work with you on this and how we can help you with any marketing material and anything like that. But that's a very common way we work with our clients. In terms of support and success, we have customer success managers that work with our larger accounts. So if you are a larger property manager and you choose to go with Minut, I'd be thrilled to introduce you to one of our customer success managers who takes you through the whole onboarding journey, the rollout. When you have, say, 100, 200 properties, you need to plan that, because you're going to have to physically go and install them. And luckily, it's very easy to do that, but it's still good to have someone along the way who can help out and answer questions. And then technical support is something that's included for all our customers, which is available in the EU and the US, so during business hours, and you can reach out with any questions you have about installation or the web app, or if something's not working, and we'll sort you out. The API integrations that we have today, so there's a few different ways, or sorry, the PMS integrations that we have today are on this slide. There is a few different ways that you can use Minut in your day-to-day business. So the API is what you would use if you want to build, if you have your own system or you're building something and you want to connect Minut to that, then we'll sort you out with the API, and we have engineers that can help you with that. Zapier is a way for you to complete more like simpler tasks, and that is maybe for sending messages to another app or something like that. So really helpful if you want to just automate some simple tasks. And then PMS integrations, these are the ones we have that are up and live right now. I see that Zapier is part of them, but Zapier is a third-party provider for just making like quick connections, and the rest of them you see here, they are property management systems. And we're continuously adding to these. So what's coming up here in terms of integrations are some of these. IGMS, Apaleo are two property management systems. We also have Nuki and Tado. I was talking before about temperature control and climate control. Tado does thermostats, so we'll be looking to work with them to implement that. And what I wanted to ask you guys, OwnerRez, yeah, exactly. So what I wanted to ask you guys, what PMS do you use, and which PMSs do you want to see that we integrate with? Because we want to have, the question here is, do you use a PMS? But I'll open a poll here, and you can answer. I don't know if you can put in, okay, it was just a yes or no question. You know what? Put your PMS system in the chat, and let me know which one you use, which one we should integrate with next, and I'll forward that to the team so we can add to the list. Because what I was saying is we want to be on the platforms that you are on, and we want to be able to support you in the best way, which means integrating with your cool. Lots of good ones coming in. Ecobee, OwnerRez, Your Porter, Hostfully, Ring. So lots of different ones, and I know some of them are in conversations, but I'll definitely get these on. Keith, you had a question about Airbnb. We currently don't have any deeper integration with Airbnb. We have had promotional relationships with Airbnb where they recommend our product, but there's currently no integration. So that's the answer to your question there. But thank you so much for sharing all of your PMSs that you use. I'll be sure to give them to the engineering team and Caroline on our team, who's responsible for that priority list. Okay, so let's look at, we're about halfway through, which is perfect timing, and we will look at the web app. And let's see if I can share my screen. Yes, let's see if I can share the right thing here. Let's do a tab, and there we go. I am hoping that you can see my screen. I think you can, and I will have, yeah, if you can't see it, let me know. You see it. Thank you, Robert. Thanks, Pamela. Awesome. Okay, so dashboard. This is the web app. So you'll find the same sort of features or the same things on the mobile app as well. But as I said, it's a bit easier to do the overview and the bulk edits from here. So we're going to look at the most common features here, and I'm going to walk you through some of the settings. Noise events show up here. If there's anything ongoing, this is where it will be, and this is to give you like an at a glance input of anything you have to deal with directly. You will also get notifications to your phone, but this is sort of see, is there anything ongoing? You know, some companies have have a screen in their office with this up, and then they can see if something's going on. Same for crowd detect events. So if we suddenly see a spike in devices in one of your properties, we'll let you know as well. If there are any sensors that are offline, and this can be for a variety of different reasons. It could be because the Wi-Fi went down. It could be because someone turned off the device, but or that it went too long without charging. And this was one of your questions, I think, and I can't remember who asked it, but one of the questions was before was, does it give you an indication of battery? And yes, it does. It will give you an indication on the phone. It will give you multiple reminders long before the battery is drained to give you ample time to sort it out before the battery dies. So here's that, and then the latest events is showing what's going on. Like, so this is just a news feed sort of all of the events. If we look at your homes, this is where you will have all of your properties. We call them homes, but you know, whatever you refer to them as, and this is where you have that full list. You have the security alarm, which you can toggle on and off for these properties. You have the noise monitoring, which you also can toggle on and off. And the reason you can toggle noise monitoring off is if you at some point maybe don't have guests and you don't want to, you know, if it's your property that you're renting out and you want to be in it yourself, maybe you don't want to have notifications when you're listening to music. So you can turn that off. If you have a large portfolio, and you will likely have this on all the time, and you'll only be toggling security alarm on and off. We are looking into some cool ways to sync this with your booking system so that the alarm can be turned on when the property is vacant. Right now, you have to do it yourself. You have to go in here and you have to activate it for when it's empty. But we're trying to automate that so that you don't have to worry about it. And when there's a booking, alarm is off, noise monitoring is on, and when there's no booking, alarm is on, noise monitoring is well, noise monitoring would technically be on as well, because it's always good to know if there's noise when there shouldn't be. Then we have crowd detect, which we've already talked about, and then we have how many sensors there is in each home. Looking closer at this is where we'll go into some of the talk about the actual noise level in the settings. Here you have a red line. This is marking the upper threshold. So the 80 decibel in this case is a loud party. I'll show you some of the different thresholds. And the green line is the actual noise in the property. So if the green line goes above the red line for a certain amount of time, you will get a notification, and it will trigger this whole flow that I talked about before. We will go into settings, and I will show you how to set different. We also have a nighttime, daytime setting, so I'll show you that in a bit. Security alarm is just toggle here, and then this is what the crowd detect looks like. So you can see this one is in. This is what it looks like when no one's here. I think this one actually might be in somewhere where no one was here during the evening. So from 6 o'clock in the evening until 6 o'clock in the morning, there was no activity, and then during the day there was plenty of activity there in terms of devices detected. So it does give you information, even though it's not counting Android devices at the moment. But yeah, we will definitely get there. The clock here, just a small pointer for all of our US friends that are on this call. You can change this clock, so you can have Celsius and the 24-hour clock, or you can have the Fahrenheit and the regular clock that you're used to with the AM PM. So all of that's customizable. And then here, the sensors, there's one in the kitchen, and this one is showing normal temperature, normal sound levels. So no issue here. And this is the map where the property is located, or where the sensor is installed. And a really good question from Robert is, do you ever recommend deploying more than one sensor in a home? And that answer to that question will be, it depends on your home. I would say that if you have one place where people gather, like you have one living room where people gather, and where a party would start, or where they would be causing noise that could be an issue for you, that's where you would have the sensor. If, say, you have two places in your property, like you have a larger property, you have 2 floors, or you have a separate part of the property where you maybe have a pool table or some other social area, then you might want to have one there as well. Same if you have multiple stories, you might want to have one on each floor. But I would really recommend just start with one and then see if it's what it's picking up, because the thing with sound is that it's going to depend on the layout of the property, the thickness of the walls, how close is the closest neighbor, how stingy are they, how quickly will they complain, and all of those things are gonna affect the level, the decibel level that you set, and also how many sensors that you're gonna need. But generally, one sensor per like social area, social like a living room or kitchen is absolutely fine. More good questions coming in. There's a lot of them, so I'm gonna save them to the Q&A. I also have a co-host, Lauren, on the call, who's keeping track of all this, so don't worry, I will answer them. Looking at the sensor itself, let's look at some settings. First up here, I just want to show you, this is what it looks like when you can add guests manually. So I was talking about PMS systems and automation, and this is something that you really want. So, I mean, we're trying to integrate with as many PMSs as possible for this reason, but you can also add the guest data yourself. You can add their phone number, you can add the check-in date and the checkout date, and that way you can get this automated guest messaging from that way instead. But if you have a PMS that we integrate with, that's going to be a lot smoother, because you're just going to do a few clicks and then the two systems will talk to each other and they will do this instead of you having to do it. Another really cool feature for you, if you're a larger property manager, or if you have someone that you're co-hosting with, you might want to give them access, but not full access. So there's two different levels here. You can add a team member, and you can set them as an admin or just as a regular member. And a regular member can view but can't edit or change anything. And this is cool, because then you can have someone who's just sort of responding to events, but not really changing the decibel levels or going in and changing settings or guest information. And then we have some profile settings, which means that you can set a profile for multiple homes in like a group, and then every time you add a property, you can apply the same settings to that home. That way you don't have to go through the whole process of setting the same settings for that home. It's already applied if you group it into the same set of properties that you already set. Sorry, that was a lot of settings, but if you have questions about that, I'll clarify. But it's basically so you don't have to go in and set the decibel level for every home. You just put it in the profile, and then we know that this home should have 80 decibels as the threshold. Here's what I showed you on the slide, where we were looking at the different things that happen when a noise alert is triggered. And you have the SMS to guest. This is also where you customize the guest message, so you can write anything you want here. This is what the guest will see. And then you also have the auto call, which will read out the message, which is this one. So you can have a different message from the first one if you want to. And then we have the flash and sound, which is also you can see these little markers here, they're pro. That means that they're on the pro plan, and I'll talk to you about pricing in a little bit. But and then this happens again like 3 times. So you set the different things that happen as you go. Let's see if there's anything else here that we want to look at in detail. Otherwise, I know we do have a lot of questions, and we have a few more. This is the integrations page, by the way. So this is how you connect to your PMS. Then you just have account, and you can buy. Oops, that's going to take me to the store. You can add devices directly through here, and you can do some other things as well that have to do with the admin on your Minut account. So this is really the one place where you do everything. I'm going to flip back to the slides. We're going to have a few more slides, and then we're going to open up the floor for questions. And I know there's a few of you waiting to get those questions answered. Let me see if I can just let me see here. Oh, there we go. I think, did Lauren do that? Thank you, Lauren, if you did that. All the technical parts here is really Difficult. Okay, yeah. So I wanted to, since you guys took your valuable time and spent it here with me for the last 40 minutes, I wanted to give you some information on things uh, that are not available for anyone on the website and out there. So I wanted to share with you some of the things that we're looking at and expanding into. So well, I already said more integrations on the radar. So I've taken your list that you've sent today. We have a list that we're working on, and we want to add as many as possible. Um, Christian, I am just gonna answer your question because it's relevant for your time here. You're asking, are you going to make a live demo of the device working? So the device working, no, I'm not going to do that in this demo here. The purpose of this call was to show the web app and show how the noise monitoring works, but I'm not going to be able to play a loud noise and then it triggering. But it's an excellent idea, and I think we should do that for the part 2 of this. So thank you for bringing that up. But that means that if you're sitting here waiting for that, then it's not gonna happen in this call. But I do have another few things for you before you leave, and I think you might want to hear those. So stick around if you can. Expanded customer support. We have business hour support in the EU and US time zones. We also have dedicated customer success managers, as mentioned, for our larger customers. But we're building this out and making sure that we're there for you at any time of the day. So that's coming pretty soon. And maybe most exciting for you guys, especially for everyone in the US, is that an outdoor sensor is on the radar. There was a question about this in the section comment sections as well. This one here is an indoor sensor, and it's not built to be outdoors. There's a lot of different things you have to consider when putting a sensor outdoors. One of them is rain, but that's not the only thing. A lot of people say, well, if I put it in a sheltered area, will it be fine? There's still a lot of things that can affect it. You have humidity in the air, you have dust, and then you have the wind and the weather conditions that might give you a lot of false alerts. So the reason we're taking some time before we launch something on the market that is approved to be outside is because we want to mitigate for these weather conditions. We want to make sure that we give you the best possible product we can. We want to give you one that's as easy to install as this one, and that works in all weather condition and doesn't get affected by wind. And the way we can do that is we use pretty advanced machine learning to detect different types of sounds. That's one of the things that Minut excels in, and that's what we're also looking at to sort of mitigate the wind factor. And there is a question here about dogs barking, which is also within that realm. And I will answer that one as well in a little bit, but I'll just finish this off. We have some really good reviews. You can read about this on the website as well, so I won't go any deeper into it. But my point here is mainly that we serve people from 1 property to 1,000 properties. We have some customers that have several thousand and some that just are happy with one. And Minut works equally excellent for both of those use cases. Pricing. In terms of pricing, we have 3 plans. We have a starter plan, which is free, meaning that you only pay for the hardware, but it's limited. So you can only have the core features and you can only have it in 1 property. We then have standard and we have pro. And the main difference between standard and pro is the automation features. So if you look at the check marks here, what's checked in pro that isn't checked in standard is everything to do with automation, everything to do with integration, with things where you don't have to worry about doing something for it to happen. So SMS to guests or flash and sound or automatically uploading guest information and then contact them, auto call, all of those things that make your life a bit easier is on the pro plan. One way people do this is they start on standard and they test a few properties and then they go to pro. Or you feel like, oh, we have a PMS integration that Minut works with, so we're going to go for pro directly. Of course I recommend pro because it's the best user experience. I use that as well. But if we don't integrate with your PMS, then it's not as valuable. But there are several other things that you can use, like the flash and sound, and you can also upload the guest information and you can still have the automated guest message go out, but you just have to do the part where you upload the guest information. And this question here from Alan is related to pricing. So he's asking if you can put one sensor in multiple properties. I think you have to clarify that, Alan. If you want to put one sensor in multiple properties, one in each. Yeah, no, yeah, which plan? You can't be on, then you have to be on a standard plan. So as soon as you have more than one property, you can't be on the starter or free plan. So the free plan is for if you have one property. It's if I have a property in Spain that I'm renting out, I can use the free plan because it's one single property. But then if you have multiple properties, you pay per property, and you can put more than one sensor in each property. I can have a property with 3 sensors in it, and I'll be paying just for the hardware for those additional sensors. The pricing itself is so that if you go on an annual plan, we will heavily subsidize the sensor. So if you buy a pro plan, you will get the sensor instead of $129 in the US, you'll get it at I think it's at 49 now. I hope I didn't say that wrong. But you can go in on our website and you can see we're running some promos at the moment, actually. So we just had a Halloween promo, and Black Friday is coming up. So be sure to check the website because when you buy a plan annually, you can get some very good discounts on the hardware itself. Just to give you an idea about Minut, I probably should have started with some more of an introduction of the company, but we're in 120 countries, 10 languages in the app, 5 distribution centers globally, support in EU, US, and we're recommended by Airbnb and top rated on Trustpilot. We will now do the Q&A, and there are a lot of questions, so I'll try to go through those. So Alan, you did have a follow-up question on the one with sensors. If sensors conflict with one another, I don't think I'm understanding your question entirely, but you can have multiple sensors in one home. You have to pay. The plans are per home, but you can have multiple sensors in one home. They don't conflict with each other. They work with each other to give you a full picture. You can have one in the kitchen. If you have a living room, you can have one there, and if you have a room with a pool table, you can have one there as well. Let me see here. I'm going to go through, I'm going to ask Lauren if you can feed me questions as well if I miss them. Otherwise, I'll just start going through the feed here and see if I can answer some of the questions that have come in. One from Alan here previously, can current devices installed be upgraded with new functionality, like a software upgrade? Yes, we do over-the-air firmware updates, which means that without you having to do anything, if we do an update on the feature, if we improve something, it will apply to all of your sensors that are live. You won't have to do anything. A good example of this is we went from 6 months battery life up to 1 year. We improved the software so it worked more efficiently and saved more battery. That was an update that we pushed to the whole fleet of sensors worldwide, and you don't have to do anything to get that. Occupancy, the same thing. One day it wasn't there, the next day we implemented and it was visible in the apps and worked on your devices. Keith had asked about outdoor sensors. I think we covered that, Keith. If you have any follow-up questions around the outdoor sensor, I'll be happy to, you can post another one, but it's on the roadmap, probably sometime next year. We want to make sure that it's fully, we want to make sure we launch something really good and don't launch something that is half-baked. So that's why it's taking a little extra time. Who can give me the invite code to add additional device into the same home? I'm not 100% sure about what that question is referring to. If you want to invite another user, you do that through the app. You can add another user, a co-host or a team member. You do that through the app, and that device will then be that person will be able to see everything that happens in that home as well, like to get notifications and to see the noise levels. If you just want to add another device to a home, all you have to do is to install it on the Wi-Fi and to install it via the same app or same home in the app. Code for device. You don't have to have a code for the device. There's a follow-up question on what I just said. What you have to do is you have to go into the app, and then you have to you just have to go into the app, and then you have to click add a sensor, and then you just install the new sensor that you have. Steve has a question about the alarm recognition. How can the sensor detect different alarms but also be privacy safe? So not to get too technical, but it's something called edge computing. What we do is there's a little like a little computer, a little brain in here that will hear the alarm. It will analyze it locally, and this is the privacy part. It won't send anything back. It's analyzing it on the sensor itself, and then it's telling the servers, it's telling us that there's an alarm sound. So it can be privacy safe by not sending the sound. It's doing it on the device itself. So I hope that answers your question, Steve. Let's see, what else do we have? We have a question from Christian. Do we ship to Costa Rica, and does the service work there? I'm going to have to check with Lauren, if you can check the shipping options there. That would be great. We do ship globally, but there are some restrictions, some places where we don't. But in terms of the service and the sensor itself, since it's battery powered and since you can just buy a regular plug to charge it, yes, it does work anywhere in the world. It's more about the shipping options there. So I'll see if I can have a follow up there for you in a little bit, Kristen. Yeah, Steve, exactly. The device itself does hear the sound of the alarm, but it doesn't send the audio back to us. Let me see. Pamela asks, I have 11 properties. Each property is customizable, correct? Yes, they are. And I just realized that I forgot to show you guys how to do the different settings. And that was something that I promised to show you. So I'll just really quickly jump back over to the to the web app here, because I think one thing is really important, and you can customize it for every home. Let me go into noise. I go into sensors. I click a specific sensor, and then I want to do settings. So here, this is a really important feature. This is where you set the decibel level. In general, a dinner party is around 60 to 70 decibels. A party is 70 to 80 decibels, and a loud party is 80 to 90 decibels. This is our baseline recommendation. And what I really want to stress here is that it might be different for you in your property, depending on a lot of different factors. And we recommend that you test it out and that you tweak it. But this is where you should, I mean, I would recommend starting at around 70 to 80 decibels. What you can do is you can test this at home, and it's actually pretty fun. Play loud music, let the device listen to it, and then click it once so it lights up. That will automatically push the update, and then you can just see on the graph how loud that was. So that's something you could try if you have access to your property. If not, I'd start setting the 70 to 80 decibels and then go from there. 75, I think, is the default. You can then set different thresholds for different hours in the day. So if you have quiet hours between like 10 and 7 in the morning or something like that, where you want to have a more sensitive noise monitoring option, that is possible. And you do this per sensor. So that means that you can not only have a customizable, not only can you customize each home, but you can customize each sensor. So you can set the living room for this or that level, 75 or 80 decibels. And then maybe you have one on the top floor where it's less of a concern, or maybe you have a basement with a pool table. You still want to know if there's a party, but it's less of a concern for the neighbors. So maybe you do tolerate a little bit higher noise level down there. So that was the question. That was the answer to your question, Pamela. And let me just let's see if I can go back to Lauren. Maybe you can help me again with the material here. Okay, there we go. We're back. Christian, I have an answer about Costa Rica. Unfortunately, we do not ship to Costa Rica. Sorry to say. I think I mean, you might be able to, I don't know how many properties you have. If you could, there are other ways for you to get sensors there, but currently we don't. If you have a lot of properties, you could get in touch with me directly, and we might be able to sort something out. Email me, it's buster@minut.com. Okay. Yeah, just get in touch and we'll see what we can do. But I'm not promising anything because apparently Costa Rica is not on the list to where we ship. But let's talk after the webinar. Let's see if we have some other questions here. How does the feature on alarm sounds differ from audio assistants like Alexa and Google? So this is sort of related to the one I just answered. The biggest difference is that Alexa and Google, they do the opposite we do. Instead of analyzing the sound on the device, they listen to the whole conversation. They send it back to their servers in its raw format. So I think there was a sort of case where they had actually employees at the company had heard conversations, and they do ask you to do this because it improves their voice recognition. We're not trying to do that. We just want to tell you if it's a loud, if the volume is loud, or potentially if there's an alarm going off. We're not trying to develop any voice assistant. So we don't have to, and we won't, and we can't. It's technically impossible for us to move raw data from the device. And then there's a question: could you incorporate heat, smoke, alarm functionality later to the sensor so that everything was in one sensor? As I love that idea, and it's something that is, of course, we've thought of it, but with smoke, you enter a new realm of complexity, and it's also, you know, you're entering safety and you know, with fire especially, it's concerning people's lives. So there's a lot of certification around that. So it's never going to be a smoke detector in terms of like a fire smoke detector. And otherwise, I love the question. I think it's a really great idea, and I'll bring it back to the engineers. In terms of cigarette smoke and things like that, I know there's a few solutions on the market. A lot of people are asking for it. So definitely something that I would give as feedback to our engineers that has been brought up, and I know it's on their minds. So we'll see. Stay tuned on that. Cool. I think that was most of the questions. We are approaching the hour mark as well, so I think that if there isn't, let's see if there's, oh, dog barking, right. There was one more here about dog barking. So the question is, what about dog barking? It can be very intermittent, but over a long span of time. How does Minut alert you about dog who barks every minute? Is a really good question, because what Dina is saying here is that when we have a sound that goes on for a long time, it's easy to detect because it's over the threshold for a long time. A dog would be several spikes barking, but it would be very annoying for a neighbor. We don't have a feature that solves that today. We do have some prototypes where we're testing. So, you know, I talked about how we do the alarm detection. Like we're specifically detecting alarm sounds, right? That's how we know if another smoke detector or another CO2 alarm is going off. Technically, it's possible to do the same for any sound. And we've been running some tests on specifically dog barks and seeing if we can detect a dog barking specifically and tell you there's a dog barking, because you can't do it in the normal way that we do with the parties and with people being loud. So that's something that you might see in the future, but today, if you buy the sensor online today, it won't be there. We will round off here. I want to thank everyone who joined today. If you are a larger property manager, you can get in touch with me directly. I work with most of our larger clients. And if you have any questions about how it would look specifically in your case, we'd be more than happy to help you. Otherwise, if you want to test a Minut out today, you can go to our website. We have some promotions there, and there's also the Black Friday deal coming up. So if you're thinking about implementing Minut, then it's probably a good time to do that, especially before Christmas and New Year's when you might see an increase in parties and things like that. But it was a pleasure talking to you guys today, or me talking, and you guys. Thank you for all the questions. Really nice to hear from you. We'll get working on those pre-MS systems. And yeah, thanks for tuning in.